Maybe let's talk practical application. Like, what's the first step? What does that look like in your life to be able to, like, just kind of periodically re-examine your alignment, periodically re-examine your vision.
Yeah, so that's where I can bring in a good personal story here. In my life, so in my early 20s, mid 20s, like a lot of people do, doesn't excuse it, but I kind of just went after the Tony Stark lifestyle. I can build things, I can be good at business, I can drive outcomes. And when I have free time, I can seek after the partying lifestyle. I can go and find things that give me immediate gratification. And so I did that for a handful of years, and I went off, and honestly, I drifted from my purpose. I still had a semblance of an idea that I wanted to do good in the world and that what that looked like was helping others. But the most challenging part when you're in this constant cycle of just working yourself to death and then any free minute that you get trying to have as much fun as possible, kind of just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, eventually it wears you out. And if you're fortunate, like I was, then maybe you're stuck up late in the middle of the night and you just can't go to sleep. You can't get the anxious thoughts out of your head, but they're driving you in a certain direction. That direction is, how are you actually helping people? If you are the type of person who would say that you believe that your mission is to help others so that they can have it better than you have it, what is the mechanisms by which you're doing that? What is the evidence that you're doing that? Because if you could, that was where I got to. I could not explain the evidence. I could not explain any mechanisms, and it caused great conflict in me. It was haunting me. I would truly say it was haunting me. And that realization that I'm not who I think I am. I think that's the same realization in a way of what Tony Stark is having, that he had this image of himself, that he was doing great things for the world through his innovation. And in reality, it was hardly innovation at all. It was just doing cool stuff and having a good time, which, if you can't explain how that's making a better world, then it's probably making a worse world.
Yeah, no, that's powerful, and I think I like the way you frame that as how can I explain it, not am I doing it right. Rigorous self honesty is desirable and really difficult, right? But thinking about it, trying to see yourself through the eyes of somebody else, and how would you explain it? Like if you had asked Tony Stark to explain to Rhodey in this movie, right, the Air Force sidekick that he just keeps sort of abusing and abasing throughout the course of the movie. If you asked him to think about how he looks through Rhodey's eyes, if you ask him to think about what are all the things that Pepper is doing to keep him like basically functional and fed and able to just go live in his little man cave and do his fun things, like if he was able to think about that a little bit, he probably would view himself in a very different light. Like it would cause him to question some things, right? In movie fashion, he has a much more dramatic set of resetting his expectations. But I think any of us can do that. Like look at the people around you, and how would those people say you are helping them? How would those people say you are benefiting the world? I think that would be I think that would be really powerful, and could maybe challenge you to recalibrate your alignment a little bit.
Yeah, there's a quote from Socrates that's in some of Plato's writings. That's it. It's in when Socrates goes to the tribunal trial, whatever you want to call it, at
Mm-hmm.
least as the way Plato explains it, where Socrates is basically given the choice of stop practicing philosophy in the way that you're practicing it, or we will put you to death. And he has the moment where he pleads his case, or Plato pleads it for him. Again, this is all kind of confusing how this what actually happened here, but the point is that it's really useful wisdom that's being conveyed to us. And in this story about Socrates, he gives this kind of monologue, and in the end, his final words are, "A life not evaluated is not worth living."
Mm.
And his point is for me not to stop and think, not to practice philosophy in a way that challenges me, that challenges the world. That's a fate worse than death. So he chooses death because he says, I sure I could go in his monologue. He says, like, sure, I could go and I could go into live in a small town and be quiet or something like that. But that basically, he sums it up by saying that would be a fate worse than death. And I'm assuming that most of you who listen to Wonder Tour are thinking that a life not evaluated, it's not worth living, though at times I've been guilty of it, as I explained, living a life that wasn't evaluated. And we all probably have, especially in just smaller facets of our life.
Yeah, no, it's the next decision is equally hard, right? Recognizing that you're not aligned with the purpose that you want, or recognizing that all of the habits you've built and all the structure you built of your life maybe didn't add up to the impact you wanted. Like, the next step of deciding which pieces of that to blow up is really hard, and I've been experiencing that recently too. But but it's the only way out of that is through. The only way to do it is to first figure out what you want the purpose to look like, and what kind of leader you want to be, who are the people that you're trying to help, and then you can start to figure out what the steps are available to you.